So this is when I get to be sneaky with you guys because my wife is gone and I'm going to be taking things from her garden without her knowing. Don't worry, I'll tell her later. But I'm going to show you what I'm actually going to be looking for here. And it's mostly just finding flowers that are near the end of their time on their stems. Things that are a little wilty, but they obviously still have some moisture to them. They're not totally dried up. Things like that are going to be great for transferring over to pigment. So really, I'm doing her a favor, right? You can see that the flowers that I've collected, some of them are just petals that fell off. I didn't even have to cut any of these pieces off, but what I want to make sure that I'm doing is really getting rid of the stem, because these stems sometimes are more pigmented than the actual flowers themselves, in which case they will turn very green. I'm just going to put them kind of crisscrossy-ish so it's not just a straight line in the skinnier area here. And then I'm going to follow up with these flowers. And when I tested them, they come out a lot more blue violet than like a cool pinkish violet. As you can see, the artwork basically, you know, it is art the way that you're laying this out. And it's kind of a magical experience to be able to work with nature with your hands. So once you have this positioned, now it's time for magic. We're gonna place a tracing paper sheet or two, preferably, over our design and make sure to really hold this in place. Since I'm being very intentional with this particular design, I wanna make sure that they don't shift too much. So now I can really hammer this down and make this transfer happen. I'm so excited to see how these colors blend together. It's one of the most exciting parts is that reveal. Let's see. So first reveal is just to see if there's any area that looks like there could be a little more pigment ready to give to our paper. And now I can peel this off and see the imprint that it's left. And already I'm loving this. This is so much fun. The first thing that I'll do is add some stems in here. I just want to get these in place so that I can really be intentional with the way that I draw the rest of this. You will have very unpredictable results, which is part of the fun. This one I think would be cool to kind of isolate the center as if it's really light. So I'm just gonna do these little horseshoes and I'm gonna have it taper as it gets more toward the bottom. This looks like an overlap, so I'm gonna allow it to overlap and let that my detail hide behind there. But in the meantime, I'm gonna do some heavier density with my horseshoes on one side. And the reason why I choose one side is because I'm thinking about it like a light source. And so if this was, you know, legitimate and there was a light source coming from one direction, the other side would be more shadowy. The darker colors really do us a great service because they don't need a lot of attention. They're really formed on their own. I now have this really lovely wildflower piece that is bright, colorful, vivid, and all that I did was just enhanced what nature gave me. And I can't tell you how excited I am about this.
For this demonstration scarf that I'll be making, I've chosen to use dahlia flowers, a little onion skin, some logwood, powdered cochineal, and some madder root. There is no right or wrong way to lay your dye materials out on your fabric. My recommendation is to sprinkle your selected items in a random arrangement on your fabric. I'm gonna add some of these wilty dahlia flowers. And again, I'm not thinking too hard about where I'm putting them, just making sure that I put some dye plants even along the edges and corners of the fabric. One dye that really only needs a very light application is cochineal. It is very potent and has so much of that pigment that makes its beautiful fuchsia color that it really just needs a little sprinkling of it. All right, there is my finished scarf. The next step is to roll it. Once you have this long tube of fabric, Start at one end and roll it up like you're coiling up a snail shell. When your fabric is all coiled up nice and snug, take those rubber bands or string and secure your fabric. This keeps all of those dye plants safely inside. There you have it. Before steaming, it's very important that the fabric is fully wet. So hold it under some running water. Gently squeeze it a little to be sure that the water gets all the way to the center of this bundle. And then place your bundles into the pot. Make sure they have a little room in there. And then I'll place the lid on and put it on the stove. I usually turn it on to high until it gets good and hot enough that a lot of steam is being created, and then I can turn it down for the rest of the hour. It does not need to be at a full rolling boil the whole time. It just needs to be hot enough that steam is continuously being created in your pot. Halfway through the steaming time, use your tongs and carefully turn the fabric bundles over. Gravity will pull the dyes towards the bottom of the bundle, so flipping them over helps them be more evenly colored. After 1 hour of steaming, take your fabric bundle out of the pot and set it somewhere to cool. I am just going to take the rubber bands off and undo this one right here. So look at these beautiful colors in here. As I unroll, start to see petals and onion skin coming out of here. Oop, do you hear that? It's all those little pieces of madder root falling down.
But let's look at all these beautiful colors our dye plants made.
Here are some examples of cyanotypes that I've created that are blue and white botanical prints. Now, a cyanotype is always a blue and white print. I'm gonna walk you through all of the materials that you'll need to get. You'll need to get brushes. In addition to the brushes, you're gonna need good, thick paper. And then the next part that you're gonna need are the cyanotype A and B. It's really, really easy to use. In addition, you're gonna need something to measure the solution with. Anything where you can just measure 1-to-1 ratio. Now we're going to mix the solution and coat each piece of paper. Mix it up and pour it into our nice flat dish. You'll need a dark space for each paper to dry because I prefer to coat these at night and then let them dry overnight to just ensure that they are really, really dry. So I am choosing several different flowers that have lots of variation. And then I'm gonna put the glass right over top, smush those flowers down, give it a little push. That kind of helps flatten everything out. And then I'm gonna move this from the shade into the direct sunlight. We're gonna expose our full print at 5 minutes. Watch it bake. You can see the change occur on the paper. It goes from a yellowy to a more like bluish teal to then almost a silvery, there's almost like a silvery color to it, like a gray. So by the time the 5 minutes is up, you'll be able to tell that your print is generally ready. I'm gonna take the plants off of the paper and submerge it into the water and give it a nice shake. You can start to see that unexposed part of the paper come through. Once the print goes from the yellow of the solution to the white of the paper, that's when you really know that it's pretty much washed completely. Once we take our prints out of the water, you're gonna put them on the line with using your clothespins and just let them hang dry until the paper is no longer wet at all.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest videos.